Jalen Hurts will be under his 4th play caller in as many seasons.
Yeah, which again, that seems wild. Although, like, I don't know. You have to build an offense that's so specific to Jalen Hurts, and it's kind of the Jalen Hurts offense. I don't know. I don't know. It's going to change radically year over year. But once again, that's the price of being a great team. You know, should say I don't spend a lot of time looking at like who's got cap space or anything like that. But man, I was looking at it this morning, and every team that you worry about in the NFC has just a ton of cap space, right? Like Washington does, Minnesota does, Detroit does. Like everybody in the NFC can spend.
Chicago, don't leave them off, Andy. Ben Johnson, $53 million effective cap space.
They do really have a lot. I wasn't going to try to, you know, they're probably going to be trying to poach Trey Smith. They're going to be one of the many teams that is that is going to be interested there. They've got some holes. I'm, you know, as optimistic a Bears fan as I am, I'm not quite ready to put them in the tier of the Vikings and Lions and Commanders, but you know, all these teams have money to throw around. The Rams have some money to throw around. Like, you know, it is going to be an arms race in the NFC. So I don't want to make it seem like the Eagles are just going to walk into it. They have such an advantage in that everybody who might be expensive is locked up. You know, those things are all solved. That is not today's problem. You know, their offseason needs are actually very few.
Right. I mean, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, and Zach Bond are up for free agency. I would guess, and this is purely a guess, and if it is take ages like milk, I don't care one way or another. My guess is they probably lose 2 of those guys. That would be my guess. Yeah. Like Milton Williams. Get ready to learn, you know, Carolina Panthers or Commanders or something like that, because I mean, he's a guy who can absolutely make $20 million on the open market, and somebody should be more than willing to pay. Panthers only have $15 million in effective cap space, so maybe I take that back. But there's a lot of teams that are going to be ready and willing to pay him $20+ million. I'd guess he's not on this team next year. Sweat is coming off a great run, and Zach Bond. If I'm Zach Bond, I'm coming back to Philadelphia. That's the thing here. That would be the one that I'd be kind of surprised if he moves on, but he's coming off a damn All-Pro season. Like, somebody could absolutely be willing to pay him the bag. Like Mike Vrabel looking at Zach Bond in free agency with just ungodly amounts of cap space. Why would you not want to be like, hey, come in here and like, I will do exactly what we did there or what you did there, and we'll build my defense around you. So that side of the ball definitely has some concern. But Daniel Jeremiah tweeted out last night, this is a great defensive line draft class. The Eagles are here because they invest in the trenches. So I think they can probably survive over there. And yeah, offensively, man, I'm glad you brought up the point about Jalen Hurts, and I kind of want to sort of end it on this, because I mean, Hurts is Super Bowl MVP here, and we do this stuff in the media, right? Where where does Jalen Hurts rank among the league quarterbacks? This, that, and the other. You know, he's not a top 10 guy. He's not a top 12 guy. You know, Nate and I were kind of getting into it last night, where I was willing to say like 10 or 12. Nate was more like top half. Inarguably top half quarterback of the league, but like, oh, is this guy better than him? What could this quarterback do with the Eagles? Who gives a shit? Because like, he's the quarterback for this team, and he's the right quarterback for this team. And almost regardless, I know this is dangerous to say because we just did the Brian Johnson thing where they lose Shane Steichen, they promote from within, and Brian Johnson just couldn't push the buttons quite like Shane Steichen could. But I think we're at a point with Hurts where every offense becomes the Jalen Hurts offense, basically, because he's a specific type of quarterback. And if you get the right coordinator to just zhush that up a little bit, which is what I think Kellen Moore did this year, you can walk into a great offense. And certainly from a fantasy perspective, Hurts will be a top 3 ranked, top 5 ranked quarterback next season. Somebody I'm absolutely willing to draft into. Barkley will be a top 2 pick, bare minimum, if not the consensus 101 pick in drafts. A.J. Brown will go really high. Devonta Smith will go really high, because I think it comes back to Hurts. Like, I'm not trying to overrate Hurts in this moment, but I just think that he's a guy he's got flaws, no question, but the strengths are strong enough that you can build something around him. And I think it's good for all of these players, especially where we're going to want to take them next season.
I also feel like we have to give him credit for like his mastery of the position is beyond where it was a couple years ago. Again, he was He was really good pre-snap in this Super Bowl. He was great at the line of scrimmage against, Spags defense. And the things that he does well, like some of those, deep sideline shots to these great receivers. I mean, he was on point in this game. And I don't know, maybe it's a meathead sports fan thing to say, but my God, that guy's good in big games.
Yeah.
Like the brighter the lights, the better that guy is. He was absolutely fantastic outside of one throw, which was not entirely his fault, right? He was getting drilled, and he was nearly flawless. So Jalen Hurts is my quarterback for the next 10 years. Hell yeah, I'd feel great about it. And again, I can't say it enough. He's really young. He's younger than you think. I know he's been, the combination of the fact that he's been in the league for a while now, and he was so prominent as a college player at multiple stops. You might be thinking, oh, Jalen Hurts, he must be 32. He's 26 years old. He's barely older than Jaden Daniels, right? They're like on the same timeline. So this ain't going anywhere.
It's funny you said that, like, it's maybe a meathead thing to say. Honestly, and we're wrapping up the season here on the Super Bowl recap show. Andy, this was kind of the meathead football season, if we're being honest about it. Like, guess what matters? Trench play.
Yeah.
The running game is back, baby. The toughness and tackling on the defensive side of the football. Like, remember a couple years ago, all anybody could talk about was, oh, we got to play a lot of coverage on the back end, and we give a little bit up in the run game. That's so fine. Like, we're gonna play two high safeties. We're gonna play coverage, and now it's just like, hey, maybe it's actually good to beat the shit out of wide receivers on the outside and have some aggressive players up front. Like, that's pretty cool. That's back, and I think Jalen Hurts being the guy to get Super Bowl MVP in this season is a perfect way to encapsulate it too, because again, there's some things about his game that people like myself will criticize because, like, again, I said this to Greg on the preview show. He doesn't do like what I love to see quarterbacks do, where, okay, you got a receiver who's running routes over the middle of the field and you're ripping off you're getting open against zone coverage and he's ripping these deep digs and stuff like that. I love to see that. That's what aesthetically I like that brand of football. He's not really that guy, but he's more than good enough. And oh, by the way, again, this meathead point, how perfect is it that Jalen Hurts, who, as you said, maybe this is just dumb football guy stuff, but he's really good in big games. The biggest moment of his college career at Alabama was he was benched in a big game for Tua, who immediately comes in and throws a deep shot to Devontae Smith. And Jalen Hurts basically drives the knife in the Kansas City Chiefs after everything that he went through to get to that moment. He drives the knife into the Kansas City Chiefs on a deep shot to Devontae Smith. Very cool full circle moment for Jalen Hurts, who, like I said, in the season of, hey, just dumb meathead football, like, and that's the sport. You can do all this stuff to, you can be like a dork like me and chart color coded routes and all that. But at the end of the day, this is a sport about toughness and physicality. A guy who's really tough and really physical, and Jalen Hurts ends it with a Super Bowl MVP, throwing a big time touchdown to a guy who was the recipient of the touchdown after him getting benched. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, that is wild, and like a wild full circle situation. He's also like, I mean, he might be in the Hall of Fame already, but you get to one more Super Bowl and win it, and you are there.
I'm sure the internet's going to love you putting Jalen Hurts in the Hall of Fame conversation already. But I'll leave you to deal with that one. Andy,
once again,
any other
than Patrick Mahomes in 2 Super Bowls? That's crazy, and he's only 26.